Once again, you're most welcome to another edition of the Youth Roundtable 2025 series. My name is Masawi Ivan, and I'm privileged to be your host. Today, we are joined by a panel of gentlemen and ladies to discuss the State of the Nation Address 2025. Allow me welcome you from the National Heroes Day. That is one of the events that took place since last Wednesday when we last left here. To our Muslim brothers, we do welcome you from the Eid celebrations. And again, we are here for the Youth Roundtable. I will start my introductions from my extreme left. Is my own brother, the Honorable Wasunguyi Emmanuel, an aspiring LC5 Councilor for Youth in the district of Namisindwa district. Farthest east, I think, is the last district on the eastern border with Uganda. If you use the Erigon region, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brother Masawi, for giving me this opportunity to appear on this panel. As he introduced me, I am Wasunguyi Emmanuel, an activist in youth issues, youth chairperson in Masawi County, aspiring youth councillor, and an NRM cadre. As you see me dressed in yellow, I'm happy to be here, Papa.
Wow, it is a pleasure to have you here, and we do wish you the best down there at the National Resistance Movement as we head towards the elections. As you move closer to my right, from my extreme left, is the Honorable Nkalubo Oprah. She's from the mighty hill of Makerere. She's a GRC at the School of Law. She's a member of the National Unity Platform. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Today we are discussing the State of Nation Address, and I can't wait to delve into the conversation.
Yeah, closest to my left is someone the viewers you've been requesting that we host, and you have a touch with the gentleman himself. He's a very lovely gentleman around the circles of young people at Uganda National Students Association and university politics. He's the Honorable Omujugujugu Moses. Most Makererians, you refer to him as the 90th leader of opposition in Makerere University. And he is a fourth-year law student and a progressive NRM cadre. He is going to share with us his views on the State of the Nation Address in that perspective of his cadreship. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother Ivan. Allow me to begin by greeting my colleagues, fellow panelists. A very good morning to you, and a very good morning to all the viewers out there. As you have rightly introduced me, my name is Moses Hon.Omujugujugu, and I have been the 90th leader of opposition of the Makerere government and the GRC. In fact, when I left office, she took over, and I want to really congratulate her. I had not congratulated her.
Is she also a leader of opposition, or she's in the preposition side?
And now Makerere is an open power, so we are in power. She can't be in opposition.
So she's in the power.
I want to thank you for having me. Like you have really put it, I've had very numerous requests to come here, but they usually come when we are in exams or when we are engaged. But I said that today, let me make it, and I'm privileged to be here. Allow me
start with you in our topic of the State of the Nation's Address. Article 101, Clause 1 of the Constitution of Uganda gives the executive head, that is the President of Uganda, His Excellency General Kaguta Yoweri Museveni, as per now, the obligation to address the State of the Nation Address. What, as we discuss the youth perspective on the State of the Nation Youth Address, what, as a young leader, as a young advocate, as a cadre, what was your take home from the State of the Nation Address 2025?
Oh, thank you very much. Maybe I must also mention that I am an active member of the Isingiro District Youth Council, where I have been serving and I'm still serving, and elections are held. One, I want to congratulate the government and President Museveni in particular for delivering on his mandate of the Constitution, as you have rightly put it, Article 101 Clause 1 of the Constitution, that every year a president shall come and give a state of the affairs of the country. And in my view, he did some good work, and this my takeaway. One, when he began with a very good biblical teaching of the wise builder and the foolish builder, and he said a foolish builder built his house on
a weaker foundation,
on a weaker foundation, and when wind came, it took it. But there was that wise builder who built it on a firm foundation and a rock. Even when wind came, the house had to remain. And he related it to the movement that is built on a very big hard rock of the core 4 principles. That is Pan-Africanism. We have socio-economic transformation, democracy, and indeed you can see, and backed by the correct philosophy of the NRM, which is the math line ideology, where we mean that in this we mean that whatever we do, we must involve everyone, not a few elites. And these are my takeaway. One, the president mentioned that the country is very peaceful, is calm as of when he was giving the State of the Nation address, and which I concur with him. As you know, we all know that Uganda now is a sea, is a sea. I don't know. I want to use the biblical saying, but I've forgotten it. But what I want to make is that the point I want to make is that Uganda is surrounded by unstable countries. The only stable country. If you could see what is in Congo, what is in Zimbabwe, so, and that does not come by mistake. So that was my one point that I had to take home, that we are very peaceful, and we in fact we export peace. If you look at Uganda is almost in every country trying to export peace. The other issue he mentioned was about life expectancy, that by
48 to 63
from 45 to 63 years, that by the time the NRM came into power, Ugandans were dying terribly. At 45, a Ugandan would die. But now, at least averagely, a Ugandan lives at for 63 years, and that was really a very good take home. The other issue you mentioned about was the subsistence farming, or called the Chida Chonka. That by the time the NRM came into power in 1986, over 90% of Ugandans were doing subsistence farming. And you agree with me, Nkalubo from Chibada here will tell you that by then they were only digging for food to eat, but now they dig for eating and even for selling to meet other errands. And that was my takeaway. The other issue I must mention that was really so exciting was the report of the IMF, where he said in the address that the IMF has ranked Uganda as the 7th most growing economies in the whole world. Out of the 192 countries in the whole world, Uganda is the 7th in the economy.
I will come to that economically, because I have the economics. We shall have a clear discussion on that. I want to bring in the Honorable Oprah, and then we shall return to you to continuously give us your perspective to the young people in line with the State of the Nation address. Oprah, I've been lucky to have attended the State of the Nation address in our neighboring country, that is Kenya. And when you look at the issues that contain a State of the Nation address in Kenya and Uganda are quite interesting. They differ. Most of our State of the Nation address, most Ugandans would maybe prefer that it be a comparison of the 2023-2024 year versus the 2024-2025. But we always have 1980 to date. We always have issues of partisan politics, where a person who doesn't subscribe to the national resistance movement may feel alienated from associating with the State of the Nation address. First of all, what, as a young leader in the feminist space, inspiring young ladies across the country, what were your picks from the State of the Nation address? But also, given my question, what do you make of that?
Thank you so much. I think I will start from the comparison within the eyes. This is a 40-plus-year-old regime that relates its achievement to 1986. Now, that is such a long time frame. So we have 1986, and we have 2004. 2025. So we are talking about the 19th century, and here we are, we're almost going even into the 22nd century. But we are relating this, and if you see the progress that we have achieved within this time frame, you cannot compare it to other countries that started off even with worse conditions than ours in the African context, but have gone ahead to go far beyond these things. Countries like Kenya, countries like Tanzania, that are now talking of middle income status, and all we are talking about is reaching a 500 billion mark in the next. In fact, the time is not really stipulated. The president mentioned that in the near future we shall reach, the 500 billion mark. But you see, that is problematic for a 40-year-old plus regime, because what have you been doing throughout all that time? And instead of telling Ugandans what you have probably done, let's say, within this regime of 2021 to 2025, you are relating from 1986. One of the things that disturbed me actually was when the president mentioned about infrastructure, and he said that when they came into power, there was the mileage, the kilometers were about 1,600 there. 1,900. But when he comes into power currently, we have a mileage of 60. A mileage of around 6,000.
Yeah.
So now for me that is problematic, and it should be the same for all Ugandans. Because imagine at a time where we had colonialism, we had wars here and there, massive deaths, those people were able...
Those roads of 1,000 were to a population of around 6 million people. And the population today is 45 million.
Thank you. So we have those many kilometers in the circumstances of that time. Now, if you add from that period 40 years, it's as though every year what government is doing is probably a mileage of about 300 kilometers. Now, that is an addition of, for example, the road that leads from Tororo to Soroti, and then maybe the one that then you add on, like that, double that road. That is what the government is doing in a year. So that is very, very problematic for a country that is now in a time where, as they have said, there is peace, there is life expectancy, the infrastructure has grown tremendously because of the foreign influence that we have, but also it's an age of globalization, it's an age where we are getting more technologically aware. But now these are the challenges that we are facing. I was so saddened when I looked at the breakdown of how our minerals are being utilized. And I keep seeing foreign companies, now this company is going to be in charge of extracting minerals here and there. Now you see, Uganda has been rich for a very long time in minerals, but government has failed to find sustainable solutions, training its very own local people to be able to harvest these minerals, but also carry out value addition for the same. But it's something that foreigners are doing. Money goes back to those foreign countries, and there's little that we get as Ugandans. And I think it is time to restructure, and it's really very late, because we can't. This State of Nation address represents a failure of the regime, and within the 40 years that we are talking about. This is a 40-year span, but if you're to compare what we have achieved and what probably our neighbors have achieved, then it leaves a lot of questions. Really, what are our priorities? Because if we look at issues like education, and we have majority of Ugandans don't even want to take their children to UPE schools or USE schools. And these are even the ones in the worst condition. They get a grant and can only construct 300 classrooms in the period of 2021 to 2025. That is a challenge. That begs us to ask certain questions. Where are the priorities of the state?
Thank you very much.
But do you mind if I ask her a few questions?
You are going to pose it after this first round. They will now be open to the question. Okay, you could pose it. Why I was holding it is that I was destructive. You could pose it.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask my sister here what subject she did at A-level.
Okay, I did history, economics.
Very good, very good. She did history. Why did you study history? In my view, she studied history. We studied history.
The Honorable Emmanuel,
because
Oprah
will come in.
Yeah,
I had
you address a State of the Nation address in
she
history.
studied, in my view,
I did engineering. How
she studied history so that she may be able to relate the present and will be able to predict the future. She's saying she's not happy about us telling her the history in 1986 because the day you lose the grip on the history, you lose identity, you will not know where you are going. It is very important to always remember history. The other issue she talked about...
you are going to have time to go through all these issues one by one. The Honorable Oprah posts issues around foreign direct investments. This country prides itself that it has $3.8 billion in foreign direct investments, but it does not anywhere publish what money goes out from whatever these foreigners come here to do in terms of profit margins and investment index. My questions to you first is, before you come to that, what is your perspective on the State of the Nation address for the young leaders out there, especially those who lead up in Namisindwa? But also, secondly, my interest is driven to the political and economic resilience. The NRM had a manifesto that addressed issues that they are currently serving on, whose theme was securing the future. Where does the current State of the Nation address relate with the performance of the NRM manifesto, the party you subscribe and that you highly represent in terms of young leaders' ideas? For the time I've known you as a man of idea phone.
Thank you, Brother Masawi, for the opportunity given to articulate issues basing on what my brother and sister have really articulated here and basing on the State of the Nation address. We all began by agreeing that the State of the Nation is a constitutive right that gives the President a right to address the nation as stipulated in the Constitution. To begin with, you said somewhere that the State of the Nation narrows around to only being it for NRM. That is wrong. The State of the Nation is for all parties and it is for the nation, not for NRM. Because when the President was speaking, let's say about the infrastructure that my sister here has said, the government has, for example, constructed fewer kilometers. These roads are not for only the NRM cadres like me and Omujugujugu, but they are also for Oprah, because when she's going to her district in Isingiro, is it Isingiro? No, Chivanda. Isingiro is for my brother. He uses a very good tarmac road to the west. Actually, me in Bale, I can go down and say I have less kilometers, but when you're going to your place, you use a very good road. That shows the President, in the 40 years he has been in power, we can appreciate even if there is than going straight to pulling it down. So that one, I go with it and say that. As an agriculturist, moderator, I studied agriculture in Makerere. The President talked about the subsistence agriculture. He described this as Omujugujugu described that from 90% of the captured farmers who were under subsistence, so far now we only have 33 there. And you can see larger farms. Most reference areas are Oprah's area in the west. When she goes to the west, she will see large scale farmers. And she has it that is a goal for the NRM, and that is a score. So we go down. The President has talked about peace. When you check the countries like Libya, which were far away good or better, and you compare them with Uganda. Let's even go here in Kenya and you compare it with Uganda. You will see that the peace of this nation is far more better than other countries around us. You can go to Congo. Congo has everything. It has minerals. But when you check its peace,
It is the richest in fact.
it is the richest in in the world, basing on minerals. But when we check its peace, it is not peaceful. So the president, basing on whatever he was addressing, you will see that he was aligning it with the 10 program, NRM point program. You will see that he was aligning it with the 4 pillars of NRM, that he was addressing one by one. When you go to industrialization, you will see that the president talked about it, and we have the investors coming. He has always gone to lobby, and they are coming here. Even the NUP supporters, where my sister here falls, they will describe that they are working in some of the industries. If you go to Mbale, where I come from, there is the Mbale industrial area. It has carried many youths from the area, and they are working there. When you go to strengthening the private sector, actually he has strengthened it. You can see more private schools, more private entities coming on board, and that shows the nation is strategically moving. We can go on skilling the youth. One moderator, if you go to every region of this nation, even where my sister comes from in the west, there is a skilling center where youths from every district in the region are going to be skilled. So if we leave this and pull it down, we shall have pulled ourselves down, because the nation is moving strategically, the nation is going on, and our sisters can come and join us, and we move strategically as we move as the NRM.
I think where we come to the Honorable Prize issues she audits in terms of time to impact and in terms of time to contribution. So, because Uganda doesn't live in isolation, she gave reference to the examples she compares.
Actually, to reply on that, she described us from 1986 to 2025. As I said, I agree with her that, as she said, much might not have been done, but we must appreciate what has been done. And in this nation, if she says nothing has been done, then she's lying. The 40 years, first wait, I have to elaborate over that. The 40 years of President Museveni,
Of the NRM.
or the NRM as a government, that is led by our lovely chairman, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, you'll have to realize that what we have done we have worked, and we have moved the journey. Though I will not say we have done whatever we have done, but we have moved the journey. And our sister will agree that we have moved the journey. The nation is not where it was. And that is why when the president speaks about this, he brings it to a perspective of 1986. Where was the country? And where is it now? Which means we have moved a journey that we can show to the grandsons of the president that yes, it has been done. So when the sister, like our sister Oprah, comes in, she will just push on and we go on. And the nation will be at steady progress.
Something on what you are saying, on her comparison times of time. My question would be.
No, you answers. I don't like questions.
I will give of course an answer. But my question to her would be, why didn't Uganda develop between 1962 to 1986, where it changed presidents? Because if the issue is about the president, as he's saying, 40 years of President Museveni, why didn't Uganda develop when it changed presidents 1 week, 3 months, 4 years? Why didn't he develop? So the answer would be, the issue is about stability. We have been handling a lot of issues. And by the way, Uganda is a still developing country. Oprah and other friends out there, they want to compare Uganda with China. They want to compare Uganda with the US that has been independent for the last 250 years. For us, we are just 62.
We are going to drive to our economy where we see a lot of big figures which make Uganda really a big country like Oprah states. So, have you concluded?
As I want to conclude on that issue of infrastructure, especially that my sister talked about. Do you know, Ivan, today, as we talk, Uganda is connected border to border. Let anyone here tell me that for us, our border is not connected. From border to border, tarmac to road. So do you want us to build more roads where we do not, where we cannot reach? Uganda is connected border to border. Infrastructure, power.
But
in
the
terms of
issue here
electricity.
is the infrastructure,
In terms of
distribution,
electricity.
and time. Manning in here, it is basic.
But
You'll
time-
be cheating a
but
generation
time-
when you do things at a pace that doesn't equally have equal distribution.
Why didn't UPC do that?
Hmm?
Did it have time? Why didn't it even?
So if
took over 2
UPC
times.
made 1,600 roads in 5 years of 1980 to 85, and you say you made 6,000, you added on because that is a balance. You added on
somewhere
in 40
in
years.
State,
Then irrespective of the state, the issue she analyzes here is the audit, time audit in terms. Part of issues that affect project quality and implementation of infrastructure are the time. Time is a constraint of infrastructure management. The time framework, the quality is also affected. Whenever the distribution is affected, by what rate do you do these issues? So I want to move you to the next question that you highly point out. You actually seem to know whom you should compare Uganda with, because the Oprahs were comparing it to China. I want you to compare us from the comparative index you give Uganda, but basically I also want you to give us, as a young person, as a person who is interested in leadership, and that gives it most of your time to see that you shape the young generation. What were your picks on the economy? Because in our phase, second phase here, we want to see the status of the economy. As a young person, what opportunities do you see going forward in the economy? It will be a general question for you all.
Now, to begin with, on your question, the president in his State of the Nation address said Uganda's size of the economy now is at 224.9 trillion, equivalent to 60.4 billion. The economy is robust. The economy is flourishing. Only the question would be, like the IMF said, that we are growing at we are the 7th in growth, the fastest growing economy. The question I would pose to a very young person, are you also individually growing? That is a very pertinent question. Like over the weekend, I was with President Museveni in Gudiope. We are on a Thanksgiving of Honorable Minister Mireba Banana. He made a statement, akaife, akange, kakira akaife, that mine is better than ours. Therefore, the issue should be about development versus wealth. The Uganda is growing. You, a young person watching us, are you growing? They have put roads everywhere. What are you using those roads for? Are you using the roads to put something on the market? There is power everywhere now, which wasn't the case before. Or are you using that power to do value addition on a few items, so that by you also grow with the country? Than coming here, we think the country is growing when you are not growing. My friend, I want to also emphasize that saying Uganda is growing like we are, like the State of the Nation is saying. You as an individual, you should now ask yourself, where do I belong? There is youth livelihood program. Have I tapped into it so that I can also grow personally? There is grow money for the Oprahs here in the bank. How have I accepted them so that I also catapult from where I am to a next level in terms of the economics? There is youth killing. He mentions about it in the State of the Nation address, where no qualification is required, no money is paid, like in line of the Bona ideology. How as you as a young person tapped into that opportunity to transform yourself personally, economically? Ivan, it is important that instead of telling people that the economy is growing, all this is and that, like this, our brothers and sisters, how they confuse the young people. But at the end of the day, it should be a personal responsibility to know that it is a personal responsibility to get from a situation I am in, whether bad, to get into good. If it is good, to get into a better situation. It is your personal responsibility. What the government has done is for everybody. Is there security? Can I transact business? Yes. Are there these other social amenities? Yes. Then how do you personally tap into that development now to create wealth, to become a wealth creator? Is very important for the young person out there.
Oprah, I know you love more of the law, but allow me get your perspective on the economics. Our economy, by economic growth, that is by Ministry of Finance rating,
6.7.
6.5% and 6.5% annually, is a GDP size now of $60 million US.
60 billion.
$60 billion, sorry. But when we look at issues, for example, issues around the strategic wealth initiatives that carry across to over 8 trillion Uganda shillings invested over 10 years. This includes capitalization of UDB, the PDM, which has taken 3.4 trillion in its third year. Emyoga has taken 553 billion. The YLP, which has taken 207, agriculturally active facility that has taken 495 billion. The most interesting one, the Youth Venture Capital Fund, that has taken 12.5 billion. The Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program has taken 168 billion. Invite Project 800. GLOW is 824 billion, and UDB 1.2 trillion. To rush you down is that our remittance to the economy, our economic growth projection for 2030 is a bit more ambitious, because I see they highlight 150 billion US. And I can conclude for you that a country that is only collecting 32 trillion of its budget, in a 72 trillion budget, and is having a debt repayment of across 38%, with in a 72 trillion budget, is a GDP of 14%. First of all, as a young person, where does these strategic interventions really reflect in the young youth down there in Kivale, in terms of what he has said? Mine is better than saying ours. Do these figures be ours, or are they mine? As you, as the Honorable Oprah, do you feel the economic arm of the state in your pocket, or it is ours as a country? Where Uganda, where you go to our Igbo statistics, you find 1% of the population being more richer than in a certain corridor than the 90% of that corridor.
But based on her skin, I think the economy is hers. Huh? You look at her skin.
She will answer for her skin, maybe.
Colleagues, I think one thing that as Uganda that we have thrived in is these statistics, these figures. But really, when you go down to the grassroots, when you do research, I'd like us to interest ourselves in the Uganda Health and Demographic Survey. It gives a picture of what a Ugandan is going through in terms of health, in terms of economy, in terms of business. You know, sometimes I don't even know where we get these figures from, because when we really go down to the grassroots, there are challenges here and there. But before
challenges are everywhere in life. Life is about challenges.
Sure. Before I go into the economy, I first want to revert something that colleagues talked about that I do not appreciate, and that I've not taken cognizance of history, etc. That is not my stand. In fact, I appreciate the peace that NRM has brought, and I also appreciate the different programs that it has put in place for young people.
Thank you for appreciating.
But we also now have to think through them. Are they sustainable? Yes, there is peace. Yes, probably, as he said, the roads are few, but they are there. You know, electricity is little, but it's there.
No, it's
Fine.
not little. For electricity, it's not little.
We pay 9 billion shillings every day to electricity we don't use. Just servicing. A man engineer can give you that statistics.
Electricity is poor in this country. You cannot even say, for example, me who lives here.
I think there is load shedding, but we have too much electricity that every day we pay close to 9 billion shillings servicing electricity we don't use. I think the issues may be distribution.
Yes, I'm talking about
I think use distribution. We even export.
We export to Rwanda.
I am talking about the distribution.
I think you are not well versed.
I think you're saying mine versus ours, like he said.
Okay. Anyway, that is what I'm trying to refer to. So we have situations whereby the figures exist, but when you go down to the grassroots, it is not the same thing. For example, if we look at what this address has, that the 4 sectors that will increase the economy or are increasing the economy include things like agro-industrialization, tourism development, mineral development, then things to do with STEM, science, technology, innovation, maths, things like that. If we are really to break this down, they are not things that favor the young people, or even things that as a normal person I can directly tap from or directly benefit. You will see that the people...
Even another question I want to put, they are not new, they have been here.
Exactly, but now you see the situation. That's why I'm saying that yes, probably NRM or President Museveni have been able to build these different programs and structures, but now we have to question the workability of these structures. Are they taking us forward? Are they creating the economic growth that we want to look into? And that's where I'm trying to take this conversation. Because now, for example, if I am to talk about the industries, agro-industries, we have pharmaceutical industries, all these things. You look at how many, first of all, they are not being manned or managed by Ugandans. These are projects of the Chinese, projects of foreigners. The Ugandans that are working therein are doing, funny jobs. Your handheld here and there. But when it comes to these managerial roles, taking center stage, now Ugandans are inefficient there. Yet it is not proper, especially for economic growth in the long run, to have such big sectors being manned by foreign individuals or by individuals that, maybe they have the intentions of Ugandans at heart, but it would be better to see Ugandans in these positions. And what does that mean? It means that we have to be very, very careful about the education that we give. We have to give education to young people that will take them forward. I appreciate the different skilling activities, but I have been to some of them, especially here within the Central region. They are teaching young Ugandans how to bake, how to weave mats, how to carry out welding, to make doors and things like that. Now, if those are the skills that we are teaching Ugandans, those are skills that are helpful for a subsistence living. Me, my husband and my family, or my husband, the wife and the family. Those are things that we are trying to teach. But in the long run, it is not sustainable. We need to be able to say, for example, may I come from Chibale. In Chibale, let me submit. For example, in Chibale, that is where we have oil. In Chibale, that's where we have oil. That is where we have the Kabalega project coming up. But you see, young people, or even the people of the region, have not been skilled enough. They are the people to tap into the opportunities. We have the oil mines there when you go to Hoima, but who is working there? You're going to see whites, and the young people, the Africans, the Ugandans, are very few in number. You see, we are talking about the Kabalega project, which is coming up, but how many Banyoro are going to benefit from that initiative? Why? They have not been skilled. They are being taught other things, yet really in the circumference of Bunyoro, they should get these young people. They are not in school. They are just there. They are digging, let them collect these young people. Try to train them in these mining activities, right from the downstream up to the upstream level. These are the sort of things that are going to take our country forward. But if we have skills if we are providing for programs that do not correlate with the needs of our society, then that is a problem. Because yes, we appreciate that these things exist, but do they correlate with the needs of the people? Because I've just given you an example of my region. But then that's also there. But also another thing in terms of economy that is not industrialization or mining or these other things are also social services, things like health, things like education. You see, in this State of Nation address, I was very disappointed that the president is only able to point out one district like this where they have created health, where they have created wards for health center tools. Only one district. So that begs a problem, and of which they are relating from 1986. I think we need to rethink. I think we need to rethink these things. Education, UPE, and all those things.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Oprah. We are going into a short break, and as we return, we still look more into the economy and issues. What was the youth take in terms of the proportion in the last year of the State of the Nation? I remain Masawi Ivan. See you after break.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
I do welcome you from the break. Stay tuned to Civic Space TV. You can follow us on X at Civic Space TV, on YouTube, Civic Space TV, on Facebook, Civic Space TV. My name is Masawi Ivan, and we continue with the discussion around the State of the Nation address. I was going to my brother, the Honorable Emmanuel Wasunguyi. Part of the issues facing the youth leading young people in local government is seeing that the budget, the national budget, penetrates to reach the lower end of the cycle, that is down on the ground. And when you look at the 8 trillion shillings invested to strengthen welfare initiatives, only the 220 billion out of 8 trillion shillings are only gazetted for youth, who make around 78% of the population. And my key issues here is that youths have been having specific unique challenges that really needed specific interventions, because they are the biggest demographic group that needs to be stimulated into seeing that they also contribute in terms of widening the tax base, but also their contribution to the economy. Where do you see the challenge? Because even when we see our 72 trillion budget as we head into the budget week, you will find that close to 68 trillion remain in Kampala. Local governments don't even take 5% of the budget. And when you look at the State of the Nation address, we still see that the same challenge is recurring, where resources are not actually reaching down to you leaders in local government to see that you implement government projects. What is your take on that, and where do you think government is doing right, or it should improve, to see that the youth down in Namisindwa should be very confident that in the budgeting and resource allocation of this country, whatever they demand will always reach them in the time stipulated?
Thanks for the second opportunity given to me to discuss issues pertaining the State of the Nation address. Before I discuss what you have said, when our sister was discussing something about scaling, she said, like, welding can only feed a family. I will, I think, have to tour with my sister here after living here, and I will move around to welding shops around. She sees what they do. She sees the prices of those products. And she changes her mindset. What is disturbing us, like our sister
I think
here?
her question is the after support after the course itself.
After the
Where
course,
those people are putting the skills.
the skills. And that is where they're putting the skills. Different welding shops around. So I will have to move with her.
Employability.
Yes?
They train them for employability.
Employability.
Okay, you can proceed.
So to proceed with, the question was, when the resources are sent to the ground, do they reach to a youth in Namisindwa?
First of all, before we shall go into corruption, I want the budget envelope for young people still. It is actually in Civic. If you get 220 billion shillings in this, divided by 8 trillion shillings, is even not 1%.
Yes.
There is where my interest is.
The interest in this, first of all, for any service to reach the youth, we as leaders, what are we doing? When you check this, the stipulation of the leadership of the youth comes from the nation, from the parliament, down to the district. What do we debate? Are we debating the issues that pertain to the youth? When you check about this budget, budgets are passed by the political what? Wing. So if the political wing, we have the youth MPs in the parliament who are watching this pass. So as well as the youth, it's a year of election. To stipulate this, and we are interested and involved in the budget, first of all, we must elect, what I would say we must elect well. We must elect leaders who will go and debate for us, and we get that budget. Secondly, when I went down, what I think this time I'm at the loggerheads, and I have crossed a bit to my sister's side. The government has not tried to mindset the youth. When you go to the ground, sometimes some projects of the youth, there is money in Centenary Bank that is almost corresponding or equivalent to the grow money. But some of the youth have not understood about this money, which would help them. When you go to parish development model, when you go to my village, you'll find that the youth have been left behind a bit. So this shows the government has done its work. It has a bit than what it's supposed to do.
Maybe some
No,
small
okay,
information.
Let me first finish, Papa. I know it might be hitting us, but I'm in the yellow color and I'm doing the right way.
Proceed.
So the government is really doing the right work. It is bringing PDM. But now where the problem comes, when this PDM money comes, and there was AEC, youth livelihood, sometimes they chase us and say, we are not made for PDM, but PDM is for all people, not basing on any age. So what I advise as we are here, we are sending a message to the largest population of this nation, who are the youth, that every program that comes is for we. It is not for a certain population of people. Let it be grow. If you go to grow, I pray that the government brings it down, and it is for even my sister who is here, not for only some less population that takes it. Because I got information that like they grow, when the government releases that money, there is a clique of people who go and get this money. So for me, what I'm emphasizing here is that we must discuss this via such panels and make the youth to know that there is money that they should use. Some of the youth are not aware. But when we come to the Civic Space TV and have to send a voice, they will get to know and they will utilize this money.
Thank you very much. Our next guest joined us after the break. That is the Honorable Rubambura Kakuhi Onesmus, a member of the Forum for Democratic Change.
The name is a bit hard.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I want to pick your, as a young person, I want to pick your youth perspective on the State of the Nation address, but also on the economy itself. Your colleague points out that some of the programs are still facing issues with mindset change, but also issues of more of active participation. Have you been sidelined from a program for being FDC, or what is your perspective? But before we reach there, what do you make of the State of the Nation Address 2025?
Yeah, first of all, good morning, our viewers. My name is Onesmus Rubambura Kakuhi. I come from Kasese District. I'm the chairperson emeritus, FDC Makerere chapter. The State of Nation Address, I would say as a local youth, the numbers are really impressive. They are really, really impressive. The president highlights very impressive numbers, talks about how government projects have been positively going on, how government projects have been impacting people's lives. But I don't think the president's perspective is what a local youth like me can be seeing. Because when you look at the hierarchy of the whole system, the president is more of a person who receives reports. Yes, this program is ongoing. Yes, this initiative is a success. But is it really a success? When I listened to the State of the Nation address, my main focus was on the government initiatives targeting the youth. For example, the emiogas, the PDM. And from my village there in Kasese, I actually attempted to acquire a PDM, to process the PDM money, and I had all it takes. I had national ID. Yeah, but because my family is more affiliated to FDC and the opposition, the person who was in charge couldn't process. So this affects a lot of other youth who belong to other political
Oprah
affiliations.
miss money in Kibali, where Nabanja is the signatory.
Yes, because she's new.
It cannot happen.
Yeah, because when you look around, when you look at the youth leaders in the country, look at the National Youth Council, you look at the youth parliamentarians in the House. What are they really adding on the youth? And me as an opposition guy, it's not going to be easy for my brother here, the deputy RDC, to bring me on board when he's seeing his colleague here who is in yellow. That's human. So the State of Nation address, I think, in my perspective, I think the programs that were targeting the youth are not really benefiting the youth practically. They're not really, and it's sad that the president is told that these programs are benefiting the youth and sort of, but if I had a chance to meet the president and tell him the truth, I would tell him the truth. I would not sugarcoat it like my brothers would do. So looking at the economy, I think the economy is not where the economy is. The youth are facing more unemployment. There's a lot of underutilization of labor and unemployment as it stands. And also, the youth don't know what to do. The youth are not involved in the money economy. People are actually broke. We are broke. That's the truth. We are broke. I have friends who graduated at very many universities. Someone did a course, but
A broke person looks like you.
yes, we are broke. We are broke. We are broke. So unemployment is not. It is a very big problem with unemployment. You can't get a government job unless your papa is a big man there. You can't get a job. Even small internship nowadays, it's a scuffle. I was seeing people were scaffolding for internship places at Parliament and at BOU. It was a big scuffle. Who knows you? Who is your father? So I think the youth need more of. We need more. We need leaders who can unify us, who can make us embrace these government programs. For example, I was seeing sometime back the chairperson of the National Youth Council was signing a letter in the name of his political party, clearly showing he belongs to the yellow movement, clearly showing he's the chairperson of the National Youth Council, but also he tries to frame it more of an NRM Youth League. So that cannot make people like us, people like her who belong to NUP, to embrace such leaders. Leaders who politicize all the programs, leaders who can't involve other political party youth, because the truth is the majority of the youth are actually opposition. So the few, that's the truth.
I will give you facts.
You give you continue.
Yeah, that's the truth, because I'm talking as a youth. I don't think you're talking as a youth.
He is. Continue.
So when we look into how our leaders behave, really, it doesn't give us the morale to also get involved in these youth activities. And we really want to be, in the whole sense of it, we'd like to take part in government programs like PDM, we'd like to benefit. But now, do we have the chance to benefit? What are we going to be available the opportunity to benefit because of our political affiliations, Yeah, so with the State of Nation address, I believe there are some credits. I can't criticize all of it, but there were some credits that, some achievements that the government has done, has brought on board, but also we have been left out as the youth. We are not really given we are not really given enough opportunity to explore our potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Onesmus. Oprah, the issue of underutilization, I think, is the best statement used when regarding the young people. Majority of our graduates are still underutilized. Majority of our youth in political parties are still underutilized. Majority of our youth in the agriculture sector, with their too much energy, have ended up going abroad for overseas jobs. You see, we are the highest importers of labor now, which is also a good thing because exporting. But the issue of underutilization of the youth in terms of human resource, the youth in terms of contribution to the tax base, the youth in terms of contributions towards Uganda's priorities. What do you make of that?
Thank you so much. I'm going to submit on that shortly, but I just wanted to react to something that my colleague Onesmus talked about. With this issue of PDM, PDM may have its challenges, but young people, whether you belong to what political party, go get money. Don't sit and say,
pay for it equally.
Yes, you
and let them not go and lament that we need the money. It is their money.
Yes. So go sign up, and then I think for those people who operate, who give out the money, and they are partial and they want to play partisan things, I think that goes to our colleagues here who are in the leadership spaces of the NRM, and your colleagues who want not to give that money to people on those grounds. I think that should change. But as young people, let's go forth with that money. I think the only challenge that may have faced with it, because I have a group of relatives from my father's side who got this PDM money, but because they were not educated about what to do with the money, they were excited, they drank the money. One night, the 1 million was over. So those are the challenges that we are facing. So I think, one, we need to sensitize young people, let them know this money is there, it is for them. But also, second, show them how they can use them. Yes. How can they use this money? Because now PDM has come back to get back the profit, because they drank it. They are running around. So those are the challenges that we are facing. But when it comes to underutilization, I am an activist when it comes to education and skilling. I think that is very important. And the people in Uganda who we can call highly skilled labor are few in number, but they exist. But what happens is that the opportunities in which these young people can engage are not as enticing. I have spent 4 years in Makerere, 5 years in the university. Probably I have even done other courses, and elsewhere they are looking for my services. They are willing to pay me highly. You see, I'm a teacher. I have studied for 3 years, and in other countries they are willing to have me to teach their people at in with a very good amount. But now, what services is your own country providing? You know, you go to ask for a job placement and they are paying you in Wi-Fi, in tea, money comes late. You see, those are the challenges that young people are facing. You are a teacher, you're earning 400,000, yet you have been studying for over 3 years. You're a lawyer, you work on a case, sleepless nights, you end up with less than 1,500,000, and yet these are people who have families to take care of. So when greener pastures come, or when they do their research and they see that in outside countries they can accommodate them, people fly out. But also that is just in terms of the intellect and people who have studied. But now when it comes to our young people who are the majority, who have not been able to have this formal education, what occurs is that now they are being sent out as maids, as truck drivers, salespeople, delivery men, guards in the Middle East. And that is where most of our young people have been taken. But even without, let's say, that knowledge base, their labor can be utilized by this country for economic growth and other factors. I just think they need to be skilled, and this skill that I'm talking about should be appropriate, especially with the dynamics. You know, Uganda is blessed that every region has things that it thrives in. There is a region that thrives in agriculture, a region that will thrive in mining, a region that will thrive in different sectors. So let us find ways of engaging these young people in a community-based approach so that we skill them to serve their community, so that when they are skilled, they are able to serve the community, but then at the same time also improve the people. They are take people to another level. That's how we grow. We cannot skill people independent of the communities that they come from. Otherwise, if a person has no attachment to their community, they can easily fly out or have whatever venture that comes to them. But I think we should utilize our young people intellectually, but even for those who have not accessed formal education, we can skill them in better ways so that they can serve their community and create economic growth. And the issue of foreign direct investment, sure, those things need to reduce. The level of foreigners that are manning companies in this country is alarming and shocking, and it needs to stop. We need to find ways of getting our people involved and managing these different projects, because people have that capability. If you read the report, it talks about the part of science and technology, the different inventions that Ugandans have come up with. Things like Kira Motors, things in the different pharmaceutical industries, even in our universities. If you see the things that young people are able to do, it is quite a good venture. It means that we have people in this country who can ably man those different projects and organizations. I think we just need to identify them and pull them on board. But also we start building them from a young basis in universities. I don't think it is good for us to recognize an innovation when we see it. We should have been part of the process from the time it starts. And I think that's something we need to rethink as a country.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Oprah. Honorable Moses, I want to pick from you. We wanted to give our last round of questions to human capital development, whereas I'd wanted we have a few comments on the legislative agenda. Still on education, interest myself on the UPE, because the young men and women in Isingiro who sing "We Are Young Men and Women of Uganda," 8 million 824,923 learners across 12,433 government-aided primary schools at a sum of 184.49 billion. In my simple pure math, if I divide that amount by the 8 million youth, it means 23,000 is spent on each of them in a year. What do you make of the current status of underutilization of our education? Because why I want you to comment on health, the government has done its best to at least now see that the issue of interns, for example, medical interns, people whom government, some sponsors on government sponsorship and invest in highly. But in the end of the day, we fail to deploy them, yet we have a big deficiency in our patient to doctor ratio of at least 1 to 2,500. Where are we lacking that causes this underutilization? But also want to specifically address where do you think in the next State of the Nation address, do you think education should be a bit maybe made better to see that it relates with our human resource consumption?
Thank you very much, Moderator Ivan. One, to begin with, I will begin with the things that do not interest my sister here of history, yet she studied history. By 1986, when the NRM came into government, over the literacy rate was 80%, was 43%. People didn't know how to read and write. But currently, we are at 80% Ugandan. Now, in education, that is a distinction. That is A. If you are reasonable enough, can you change such a government? Can you vote it out of power when it is doing excellently? Moderators and colleagues here, the policy of government is that we must have a government-aided primary school in every parish. Let anyone over here tell me that in my parish there is no primary school. Or any person there watching us, you send us a comment, you say, in my parish there is no primary school. Secondly, it is a policy of government to have a secondary school in every sub-county in Uganda. That we have achieved like 90%.
At least my parish has no secondary school, but you have
I
two
said
primary.
sub-county. Primary is primary school is at parish level. Then secondary at sub-county level. In your sub-county, don't you have a government aid?
We do have.
No, he has it in Bukalash. He has it.
Yes, he has. Even but unfortunately, I don't have, but we are going to have.
Me.
You man, don't again ashamed.
Yes, do you know why? because we originally had Nyachituna sub-county, but then they carved off another sub-county called Ntungu. So the school went to
So how
Ntungu.
do you carve a sub-county that doesn't qualify to
So
have a secondary school?
it went.
No,
I
it is
thought,
in the pipeline.
I thought to
It is
give
in
a
the pipeline.
sub-county it should have a secondary school, a health center
no.
free to
No,
qualify.
it is in the
No,
pipeline.
it is
It
in the
has some-
pipeline because of a new administration.
you
But
know.
the point is that, and I clearly put it that 90% of all sub-counties in Uganda have secondary schools.
Yes.
And this has the results. This was asking what have
The
those
efficiency,
what
the
have those
effective.
interventions done? And I'm telling her that we have increased the
Literacy levels, yeah.
80%. Person speaking to you, I am a product of UPE. I started from the Stunda Primary School. Here I am speaking English with people who started from Kampala parents. She's here. So that's the beauty of those interventions that we are talking about. Therefore, you talk about the new curriculum. The government has come up with a new curriculum to what we call competent-based curriculum. That instead of spending the whole day from morning to evening learning about Canadian prairies, when in your village you don't have a forest, it is of no use. Let us study what we can do as a country. And I want to really salute the Minister of Education for that brave step that she took to change the curriculum of Uganda to have a context-based curriculum.
Thank you.
Then, most important, as I conclude, I want to assure young people that the country of Uganda is now on steady progress. Where we have reached now, our future is very bright and is guaranteed. We only need to work on a few challenges that we are facing. Like I admitted earlier on, that challenges are part of life. Challenges are everywhere. In the US today, Los Angeles is burning. People are rioting. Challenges are everywhere. Where you think there is democracy, people are rioting. In India, the other time they were up in flames. So challenges are everywhere. But what makes us special breed of people with the NRM? We understood the mission to change Uganda from a peasant state to a modern and prosperous nation. And the mission we have achieved, and we are still achieving. We liberated the country, but only we have not liberated a few Ugandans, like my brother Onesmus. The comments he was making here.
No, he's liberated.
Uganda is liberated, but for him it's not yet liberated. And I want to buy into the idea of my brother Emma that we need now to work on the mindset change of some of the Ugandans.
Like we are mindsetting,
there is a budget
it's changing.
There is a budget for mindset change. We need to make sure it reaches Kasese so that we can all move
Onesmus,
on the right foot.
We do go to school to change our mindset, but still NRM, still I don't think extravagantly, but still budgets to change your mindset. Yet it still sponsors your education for UPA and USA. Where do we fall short of those dotted lines? But my question is, I want to pick your comments on the human capital development, specifically issues of education and health. We have science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, that is highlighted in the State of the Nation. Where we are heading in the fourth industrial revolution. Issues of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, industrialization, 3D computing are taking center stage. Yeah. How do we position our young people to compete globally for this space?
Or do your
young man in Kasese to think that going to Congo in the forest is not the option, but they can compete globally?
Actually, another thing we can, Asha, our friend Omujugujugu came with a hard copy. And my sister here was commenting that next time come with a soft copy to show that technology is growing, and I supported my sister. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Where we still move with handouts.
Thank you very much, Moderator Ivan. Yes, regarding human capital development, I believe government needs, if it needs to quadruple its efforts regarding human capital development. Firstly, looking into the education sector, how people are able to go through the education system and blend into the money economy softly. It's not always easy. There's always a crash after
because
the education
we have
system.
8 million learners joining in, but when coming out at all levels, even by P7, is still that you find they're close to 5 million have dropped off.
So firstly, regarding human capital development, there's a lot that government needs to do to favor the youth on how best they can tap into the economy, to grow the economy favorably for us, people who have gone to school to practice our skills. Because when the economy is broad, definitely people will tap into the economy and they'll be able to join the money.
Yeah, but like he says, they are trying to professionalize some departments, like in highlights agriculture and the likes, to see that the agroeconomics were not here in the past. He's one now.
Regarding that, I have been in the East this last week. I was in Amuria, I was in Soroti. I reached
How were those roads?
I reached Kapelebiong.
No,
I'm going to talk about government. Okay, how government is trying to involve. You talked about something like agriculture. Government is trying to invest in agriculture. The truth is, there's a lot of underutilized land, a lot of underutilized agriculture.
All youth are piled in Kampala.
Yes, all youth are piled
buying
in
motorbikes,
including him.
When you look at the industrial park which serves the whole region, that was put in Soroti, in Arapai, it's not active. These things, yes, they are there on paper. It's not active how many people is it employing? Not more than.
There is one active in Mbale, one
But
active one in
government
Mbale.
did it.
I'm talking about the one in Soroti.
The ratios
It's not
of
active.
also consumption in terms
The
of how
target-
many
target.
youth does it target to really is key.
There is Soroti Fruit Factory.
I
It's-
know that I've reached there.
It was purposely put there to
It's
serve the
underutilized
community.
at
It's
least
so
like,
underutilized. So the government, yes, has.
And that is taxpayers' money.
Yes,
grants
that's
and-
all our money. So now, when my brother here talks about steady progress, I really don't understand because
So
steady progress within steady progress. Okay, which sector are you exactly? Which steady progress are you really talking about? You know, what do you mean by steady?
And what do you
progress?
classify by steady progress?
Because I don't want us all to pretend like we have not been watching news. We've all been watching news. We follow the state of.
No, I
security
want you
in
to
the
give
country.
me what you experienced in Amuria, Kapyongyong.
The youth are facing problems of drug addictions. Mhm. There's a
Is
lot
the
of
youth round table, you look to the camera and address this
there's
pertinent
a
issue.
lot of drug addictions. People are getting addicted to substance use. But when you look into this whole substance use, talking as a youth, because I have friends, of course, who are suffering from these problems. Looking into this main problem, it's so easy to buy alcohol in Uganda. It's so easy to purchase cigarettes in Uganda. It's so easy to purchase marijuana in Uganda. It's very easy. Now, okay, the government wishes the youth well. Let's leave it at that. Let's hope that the government wishes the youth prosperity. Now, when you look at the policies that regard to access to substances, it's so easy for Ugandan youth to access these substances. And I believe this government has a good intelligence. That one I know. So you cannot tell me within its means, this is a big problem.
So even if we invest highly in education, as long as along the way we leave certain the disparities, like drug abuse,
you know, early pregnancies, forced
still
marriages.
we shall not get the output at the.
We cannot get the output when we are, because I have friends who came to Makerere and drugs put them off. People left the course, you know. So these are really, really big issues that are affecting the youth. Yes, you're talking about PDM, but now how are you going to involve a guy who is in Arua Park chewing leaves in PDM? How are you involving him in the economy? How is he going to develop himself? You're saying you're helping the youth. Yes. Don't target a small number of youth like my brother here who can talk to the big men and tell them we can embrace this PDM project in Isingiro. Then they give him the card. The next we hear the money has been, you know, the same stories, the same embezzlement story. Let us look into things that are really affecting the youth. People are suffering from this substance use. Is actually a very, very big issue. It's killing families, it's breaking people's futures at all levels, uneducated, educated. Yeah, so looking into the state of nation address, there's something I missed out. Like I said, there are some merits and some demerits. I believe some of the crucial things the president would have highlighted is the abductions. You know, these are things that are happening today to happen to your neighbor, but you never know when it will happen to you.
If we can give this
let him
5
talk.
seconds.
No, let me first speak, Mr. Radisi.
You want to learn
I know Runyankore, I can speak Runyankore.
You conclude without.
I don't know if I should actually speak in
The
Runyankore.
basement has many languages.
But when, you know, I feel like the president would have talked about this, the abductions, you know, the whole Eddie Mutwe thing. You know. It's a big concern. Human rights are very critical. People,
expression and civil.
Human rights are very critical when you're talking about governance and policy. Human rights are very critical. These are things that come before anything. Like, I have my right. I'm a Ugandan. You know, I pay taxes. I was born here. So there's been a lot of injustices, a lot of unjust arrests, abductions. You know, and my brothers
some
here.
Are cross-section.
Some are pretend like we're not seeing them.
Brought from Nairobi.
Now, my leader, right, Dr. Kiza Besije, right now he's in prison.
But you said for this is
No, you will
I told
never.
you
Colleagues like
sympathize with
Agatha
this.
who don't even belong to any political party find themselves
Yes, I know my political party is facing, the crisis, there's tensions on the mainstream. But me as a person, I respect Dr. Besigye, I respect Honorable Nanda. And even amidst all these scuffles, what is happening to Dr. Besigye is unjust. If it were happening to Dr. Besigye, fought for the NRA.
He was one of the heroes.
I don't think you people love the president.
You even respect the president of this nation.
I don't think you two people.
You respect your president of the nation.
I respect him. Yeah.
Yes.
He's the president. But I don't think you people have loved the president more than people like Dr. Besigye who treated him in the bush, These are people who have contributed a lot. Actually, when you look into this UPE that he's talking about, Besigye has a very crucial role into that. Many of these
was a political commission.
Yes, many of these policies, the NRA that have put the NRM government somewhere, Besigye had a role in it. So when you ignore such issues that are going on and you come here and tell me this is steady progress, I don't really get you. I don't.
They have built schools and same time budget for mindset change. I don't know how that.
I think the mindset change should be more on them.
They build schools and then again budget for mindset change. Yeah. As we conclude, time is not in our favor. I want to call the Honorable Emmanuel to give in conclusion what should be our expectations or maybe of the next State of the Nation address, looking at now where the status of the nation as per now, and also going forward we are into an election cycle. What message does he have for the young people outside there, that's to see that the youth impact in the nation also is increased but also made more beneficial to the young people?
Thank you for the opportunity, Bwana Moderator. To say anything, I'll first address the issue of my brother. As we are here, nobody can feel well when my brother Omujugujugu or my sister or brother Masawi is in the basement anywhere. As NRM as a party, you know very well the Bush War and more about it. Me as an NRM member and many of we distance ourselves from abductions. We don't know people that abduct people and we don't have that much with us. Though, if they are there, we shall dig down. I think the security operatives are fighting our government. And we must deal with them. And because NRM as a party, our major is peace. So we can't have peace when we are torturing our brother. That is a mess. So if there is anything about that, I think the president should come in and sort out those. What I believe will appear in the next State of the Nation address, for my belief, as my brother Omujugujugu said, and he also hinted on it, we are in steady progress. We believe that whatever has been discussed will increase. We shall have increased digits and numbers in this. Let's say infrastructure like roads, as she said, we have less. But in the next State of the Nation, we shall have more kilometers added, because you saw some of them prescribed, like from in Masawi and I have the Bududa Circular Road. It is added. Though I also cry and I said they have given me less kilometers, but we have something on board. In health, when you check districts, they have health center 3s, health center 2s at almost sub-county levels. We believe more of this will come. Education, as he said, his sub-county has not so far attained a secondary school, but it is in the pipeline. We expect it. No, brother, we expect in the next State of the Nation, we shall have a secondary school in his sub-county. So whatever we have said here, we realize that in the next State of the Nation, there will be progress. So to my brother here who talked about the progress, that is what they call progress. We are moving. We are not going backwards, but we are doing what? Moving. Tulikumeini and we are moving. So on the issue of elections, we are having youth elections going on. To all our youth, I have always said this. Last week I was on one of the medias in Bali, and I told the youth that if you don't go into elective positions, we shall face a problem that wrong people will decide for you. So to all youths out there, regardless of the parties, NUP, FDC, NRM, we have DF, PFF, let's all go and pick nominations and participate in elections. Because when we participate in elections, a vote is like a bullet. It will add something on the nation, and we shall get better leaders. Everything to be better in this nation, like leaders. Better leaders will only come when we have a better leadership. And a better leadership should be put in place through nominations and elections. That is one of the pillars we have as NRM, democracy. So I advise my brother here to go.
The Honorable Oprah, what are your closing statements? Do you have any future expectations to see that there are two words commonly that have been commonly used by colleagues: steady progress, any expectations?
Sexual in the future.
So you see, in Uganda today we are on a sort of hill curve. We
Peaks and valleys.
You know, those sorts of things. So right now we have traversed the peak point. We are now on the downward slope. We've even traversed the downward slope. We are now really going into the ditch without any hope of recovery. That is where we are. If you look at this State of the Nation address, that is what it represents. It represents a state that is failing, a state that is stagnant, a state that has nothing more to offer the people of Uganda. Because we cannot be speaking steady progress 40 years down the road.
What should we
And we are moving.
We should be speaking that we have transformed the nation. We should be speaking of opportunities. We should be speaking of we cannot still have these issues that we have talked about today.
The word steady
But a moderator even no pass a party is moving and it is getting a constitution. Steady progress.
I beg your pardon?
The word steady progress is underutilized. They should have a bigger word.
No.
You see, for a person to say steady, when that is something that you have at the start of a process, when you have probably been there, like let's say 3 years, and you're saying, okay, we are moving steadily. But honestly, 40 years down the road, what more steady? When are we going to be at high speed and moving?
You should be steady, not progressing.
Steady is more of a stagnant word, actually.
You know, the word is steady. There is no progress, there is no steady. That is what I'm trying to say.
I've understood. My English teacher failed me that.
So that is the route that we are.
So you can't steadily progress. It means you're stagnant by some extent.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The whole thing of it.
Yes,
Steady progress.
That's what I'm trying to say. And I feel very bad when we have colleagues here who are trying to downplay the issue of human rights. You cannot tell us you don't know who is doing these atrocities. I won't even go there. But we all know in this country who is in charge of these abductions. We know very, very well.
Have you been abducted?
And even when we say, you never know. You don't. And even when we say that the president should take charge and probably solve the situation or try to remedy it, I think that is really far away from reality. And that is why you'll find young people on the streets. That is why you'll find this peace that you're trying to build now, that you had built, trying to be destroyed. When you talk about pillars like democracy, let us be clear honestly. In Uganda, we do not have democracy anymore. We saw the 2020 massacres. In leading to the 2021 elections. We have seen what has happened in the Kawempe by-election, and that even just gives a picture of where we're going 2026. So we cannot be speaking democracy when we have multi-party politics being scaffolded at the greatest levels ever. You know, peace, all these things that NRM had built or had restored are the same things that it is now destroying. And I think we need to rethink that. That's why for me I'm saying there is no steady progress. We're just on a downward curve and we're going into a ditch.
The Honorable Moses.
If not, we're already there.
You have the last minute to conclude because we are past time. But
to begin
for
with,
purposes of the show, I want you to concentrate on the concluding statement.
Yes, in my conclusion, I must make mention of the what my sister here has talked, that there is no democracy in Uganda. Yet is one of the pillars of the movement. Actually, what other nations do, like the US, they have what you call pseudo-democracy.
You said she was comparing us to China, but you've compared us to the US more than
you see, in the US, the president is elected by a few.
Let's take Tanzania. She compared you. Accused her of comparing
Uganda. It is a popular vote.
You know, there is a difference between having an election and having a free and fair election, because that is what democracy is.
Now, where it meets my mind,
if there is no
democracy, if we are out of time, you look into the calendar.
Yesterday, but in 2016 and those years, we had the FDC as the leading opposition party in parliament. Today, her party is there. Did that party fall from heaven?
And they're struggling for MP seats.
How did it get there? That is democracy.
Yes.
The will of the people. People were exercising their will.
So you're concluding your parting statement.
My parting statements are that a young person outside there, you must make sure your parent is proud of you. And your parent cannot be proud of you when you're a drug addict. Your parents cannot be proud of you when you're a public nuisance. Handle yourself very well. Stop the things of the drugs. The government has liberated Uganda. You are now supposed to liberate yourself economically by tapping into the opportunities that the government has availed. Those issues of being on WhatsApp from morning to evening, being on TikTok, doing all that is not necessary, but rather focus on issues that can bring something into your pocket. Be a wealth creator. You have whatever it takes. Government has put it in place that you can transform. Government has immunized the people. For now, immunization. You are energetic. You can do anything. Please move out of your comfort zone. Go and make something for yourself.
Since we are out of time, I want to appreciate our viewers. Special appreciation to the Honorable Emmanuel, the Honorable Onesmus, our sister, the Honorable Oprah, and our guest today, the Honorable Omujugujugu Moses. Where there is no parental guidance, this youth roundtable guidance has been committed to our young viewers. Stay on Civic Space TV. He didn't mean staying the entire day, but stay tuned every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. for the youth roundtable. Follow us on TikTok, the Civic Space TV. Follow us on YouTube, Civic Space TV. Follow us on Facebook, Civic Space TV. I remain Masawi Ivan, your host for today. See you again next week, same time, same place.